Go to our reports. We're going to hear from our District 5 Supervisor, Jessica Pyska.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We have a full house. This is very exciting. And just to follow up on Terry's remarks about the renovation here, I'm really grateful to the Kelseyville Presbyterian Church. They really want to make sure that the seniors are supported. We want to make sure that there is seamless services and programs, because we know how much the seniors rely on these services. So the Kelseyville Presbyterian Church is really stepping up in a big way too. So really, really grateful to them. And we are going to have to find a new location during that 6-month period for these meetings. So maybe members of the committee could look at some options. I know American Legion was mentioned, maybe the Grange. There's some options, but we're going to need to find another location. And maybe if you can bring that up at the April meeting, and then we can set it in the agenda. Or actually put it on the April agenda,
Yep.
so we can make a decision.
That'll be the last meeting we'll have here.
Yeah, and then we can get that noticed, and that'll help everybody out. Okay. So yes, the senior center construction will begin in May, pending NEPA finalization. CDD just sighed. No. Because there's federal funding involved, we have to go through NEPA. It's just one of the things that we have to do. And so hopefully it will be finalized and we can roll on schedule. The Konocti Road Sidewalk project is starting next month. We've all been waiting for that for a long time too. NEPA delayed that project as well because there was federal funding from Congressman Thompson. And so federal funding comes with a lot of strings, and sometimes it takes a long time to work those out. So really appreciate everyone's patience on that. We're going to be moving forward really soon. And then I just want to talk briefly because Supervisor Sabatier and I both went to Washington, D.C. last month, which is what we do every year in February, end of February, early March. We go for the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference. And we carry the board priorities with us, and we do a lot of advocacy. And what that looks like is the last meeting in January, our board has a governance workshop, and we go through every single department. We hear about their priorities, we work on their plans, but at the beginning of that meeting every year, we adopt our state and federal legislative priorities. And now that we have lobbyists, which is relatively new over the last couple of years, we set our lobbyists free with those priorities to work on our behalf. But we also, as representatives of the county, carry those priorities and that advocacy work with us when we go. So we have a lot of meetings that are set up with our legislators. We have our lobbyists set up meetings, Hill visit meetings. So it's a really busy week, but it's really, really effective now that we have both lobbyists and legislative priorities. So it's new for the county. I think this is the second year for federal lobbyists and federal priorities. It's our third year for state lobbyists and priorities. And then in the spring, we do the same thing with the California Association of Counties, which is CSAC. And so we go to Sacramento and we do the same thing with all of our state priorities. So the federal priorities we were working on, a lot of the, we're gonna have to deal with a lot of the effects of HR 1 legislation that kind of pulls back a lot of the funding that supports Medicaid and SNAP. And we know a lot of our residents in Lake County rely on those benefits. There's been some pulling back at the federal government, and then at the state level, the governor is actually passing those costs on to counties rather than helping. So there's a lot of advocacy that needs to happen at both the state and the federal level for those needs. We talked about our seniors. 25% of the people in Lake County rely on SNAP benefits, and I think we've got 35,000 people in Lake County on Medicaid. So it really affects the people that live here, it affects our economy. So it's going to be a really interesting year to see how we can work through this on the county side, because the counties have to deliver services. We have to, regardless of where that funding comes from. That is our obligation. We have to deliver the services, we have to look people in the eye, to make sure they have what they need. So it's going to be a big year for everybody on our board and this advocacy, and luckily we have already kind of built the structure for this advocacy with really amazing lobbyists. So I just want to give you all that primer. This year the state ledge conference is a little bit later, it's in May, so we'll be going there, and I'm not sure if our chair is going to be going, but it's a lot easier for everyone to get to Sacramento than Washington, D.C. So does anybody have any questions about any of my updates, or just District 5 in general? Okay. Oh, yes.
What other, so the HR one, that's good. What other federal and state priorities are you guys talking about?
A lot of the work that I did, and I continue to do when I go to Washington, D.C., is we're working on FEMA reform. And I am on a task force with the National Association of Counties to reform FEMA. And there's a bill out there called the FEMA Act that has a lot of bipartisan support. It's very common sense restructuring of FEMA. And so we've been really pushing that a lot. And for example, one of the things in that would be, and the sheriff will know all about this, is if we have a disaster, we spend and hope we get reimbursed. And that does not work, because sometimes it can take 5, 10 years or longer to be reimbursed by FEMA. The guidelines change a lot, kind of depending on whose desk it moves over, things change. And so one of the big ideas for FEMA reform is going to a block grant, where the federal government says, you can handle, this is the work that you need to do, this is how much we think it's going to cost. It's still going to come with all the accountability, but they want to push that money out, and then local jurisdictions can handle it, report back how it was spent. That will be a really big change that will help us a lot. Another change is thresholds for damage. Our county has a very low population. It's very difficult for us to reach the thresholds to even access FEMA support or be approved for FEMA support. So even though we have so many disasters, and they're very impactful to us, because California's population is so big and for a lot of other reasons, we don't actually qualify for FEMA very often. And that's another change. Another change, so the third big part of the change would be a universal application. So when you have to apply, like for me, when I lost my house, there's all these different applications that you had to file. You had like small business, FEMA. So one of the ways to streamline that is to have a universal application and a universal portal, so that everybody can kind of see what's going on, what's in the portal, what's in process, rather than have all these silos. So as you can imagine, this has been really strong bipartisan work. There's about 20 electeds across the country that have been working on this. And so my colleagues are from Texas and North Carolina and Florida. And so this really is generally what everybody wants to see. The issue is that we're waiting for the White House Counsel to give their feedback, and so that's been a really long wait. So hopefully we'll hear something from the White House soon. When I go, we meet with White House staff, and so we sort of have an understanding of what they're thinking, because they have a different idea of what, well, I don't know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. We're waiting for that feedback to come back from the White House, so that everybody, so Congress and the White House and local jurisdictions, we all can align on what would be the best path forward for FEMA. That's
Okay.
the big thing that I've been working on.
Would you please comment on the progress of the Board of Supervisors Ad Hoc Committee for Energy Policy Development? Thank you.
I'm hoping that something comes back to the board in April. We've had a couple of meetings, but we're not quite ready to come back to the board yet. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, we'll now hear from District 4 Supervisor Brad Rasmussen.
Good evening. Thank you. Just a couple of quick things. One, last week, you may be aware that for the last year and a half, the Clear Lake State Park's been working on a general plan update for that park to include all the property that they own on both sides of the road, actually. And last week, they had the full California State Parks Commission up here touring the park to kind of educate them to see the park and talk about some of these future plans for improvement. So sometime in July, they're going to be having a public meeting out at the state park where you can provide more input on the general plan. So wanted to make sure that was on everybody's radar. The Hitch, Clear Lake Hitch, they started doing their spawning runs on February 27th, and they've had a lot of activity in all these creeks out here in the Big Valley area, including also in other areas around the county. But from what I've seen, it was a healthy start to that spawning run, which still is going to go on for another month at least. So and also Sharon, I wanted to thank her. Last week, she orchestrated or organized a meeting for some of the ag community, where she had the representatives from both of our United States senators from California, as well as Congressman Thompson's office, where the ag community could provide input to them on concerns or things going on that they might need assistance with. And Supervisor Pyska and myself both attended that, so I think that was good, and hopefully that can happen again. Lastly, you may be aware that temporary bridge we've got on Highland Springs Road between Highway 29 and Big Valley. It's in pretty rough shape. Starting next Monday, the county's going to close that for 30 days. We're going to take out that temporary bridge and do the rebuild on the actual permanent bridge. And so it's going to take about 30 days, but once it's done, it should be back to a good roadway deck.
What's the alternative traffic?
What was that?
What's the alternative traffic?
Well, there's from either side, none of the residences in that area are going to be prohibited from getting in and out of their properties, but you may have to go around to Big Valley Road rather than taking that shortcut from 29, you might have to go around to Lakeport and then back onto Big Valley or come in from the Kelseyville side. So, but we do need to get it fixed. It's been a while. So that's the report, unless there's any other questions. Not seeing any. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. All right, next item is with the Kelseyville Business Association. I see immediate past president Helen Finch standing up.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. I would like to share with you just a little bit that has been going on with the Kelseyville Business Association. Really, the biggest thing we've taken on in the last year or so has been a community cleanup. And I'm happy to say this is our second year, and we're getting some traction, is what I would say. We had 30 volunteers out here for our first quarterly cleanup on this last Saturday. It's just such a cool thing to see all the new faces that we saw, and we're starting to encourage businesses to really represent themselves or be represented, you know, get some of your employees out there. And they're coming back, they're just having a good time. It's really something when they all show up and they're all fired up and they've cleaned up and they just go away feeling good, and that's really, it made for a great Saturday. One of the things that we've taken on with that effort has been a stretch of the highway. I don't know if you've noticed the Kelseyville Business Association signage from Renfro Road on Highway 29 down to Crookshank Road. We're working on developing a team so that we can be out there at least every month. If we could get folks out there every 2 weeks, we'd like that even better, but, you know, not to overreach just yet, but it certainly sure feels like it's making a difference. So KVA's feeling pretty good about that, having some fun with our Locals for Locals activity, which is always also, I think, been very beneficial for our Kelseyville community, our small businesses that are service-oriented. We are visiting once, are we at every week or every month? About every month. We'd always choose and know and promote and encourage a crowd to be out just to get there and spend some money and you know, do what we can. And beyond that, our big concern has been graffiti. We really looked around and saw quite a mess of it here in the last month or so. Somebody just went a little crazy one night. We've gotten out and scrubbed and painted as much as we could. What we kind of figured was the best approach, because you look around and you see so much paint and tag and paint and tag and paint and tag activity, and that's just as unattractive as the darn graffiti, really. So we've kind of picked a couple of base colors that work in the community and have a 5-gallon bucket on hand, and as fast as they can graffiti, we can make the wall all better like it was never there. So with that, you know, we kind of, graffiti has not been the only issue, it seems, that we've had some folks taking plants from our planter boxes downtown. And, you know, we were putting a lot of money into those. We were putting a lot of effort into those. People are really enjoying them. And to, you know, come out one day and see that half of it's gone, it's been pretty frustrating. So cameras are the only thing coming to mind right off the bat, and we're here to talk to you tonight just for the sake of putting it out there that we're considering it and really reaching out and trying to understand how the public and everybody else feels about that. And any concerns that you think that we should be considering or aware of, just you know, this is just kind of us throwing it out there and seeing how people feel about that. Or if you have an idea or know of how some other communities handle this, we'd like to hear from you. Anyone?
So we're talking video surveillance cameras at strategic places along Main Street.
And/or I wouldn't say necessarily just on Main Street. I think there's a couple of places across the street from the Presbyterian Church. Wait, I'm getting confused. Presbyterian Church is 3rd Street, Methodist Church is...
So some of the back streets then?
Yeah, you know, I
Okay.
think behind the pub,
Yeah.
some of those areas. I don't know, just, as I say, it's just a thought, and that we're going to toss out and let you all have your way with.
So this is why we invited,
Yeah,
go ahead. This is why we invited the Sheriff's Office tonight to kind of address the program they have, which is camera registration program. I'm sure you can talk to that and tell us how you use it and any success or challenges you've had with it.
think that'll work. Everybody can hear me? Good. So we have two programs in Lake County. I'm sure you guys heard a lot about the Flock program. So we have Flock cameras around Lake County in different areas in Lake County. We spend about $71,000 a year on our Flock program, and we have those typically set in locations that are either entries or exits from Lake County or major intersections in Lake County. And then we also have what's called a camera registry program through the Sheriff's Office, and that's where individual businesses and homeowners can register their cameras with us. That's just simply a registration. That's saying that, hey, I've got 2 cameras and I have a server that holds video for 6 days. And then you give us your address and your name and a contact phone number, so that if we have something that occurs in that general area, then my deputies can go into our RIMS system, and they can go to a mapping system and click the camera registry program, and it brings up a map, and it puts dots on the map with where all the cameras are at. And that gives us a starting point when we start our investigations for a crime, that we know we can go to this house, we can go to this house, and we can ask them about their cameras and if we could look at their cameras. We don't have access to your cameras. It's just simply let us know that you have a camera, and that if we need it, we can come talk to you about it. We have been offered to have access because a lot of cameras are uploaded to the cloud and so on. I've said no to that. I don't want to have that access to people's personal cameras. There's potentiality there that for abuse, and I don't want that. So I've said no. We just want to know that you have a camera. If something happens, then we're going to come talk to you about it. That's our basic program. We push that every couple of months to remind the community that we have a registry program and to please register your cameras with us. And it has all of that information on there, that we don't have direct access. If something happens, it's just notification that you have it, and we're going to come talk to you and ask you if we can look at the video to see if it captured anything of the crime. I'm a big believer in it. I know a lot of people have problems with it. I don't, and because I've looked at the data, and the reality of it is, even in Lake County, when you leave your house and you go out in the community and you drive around, if you spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the community, you're going to be on camera at least 52 times. That's just what it is. There's cameras everywhere. I understand the other side of it, where there is the potential for abuse by government, and I'm fully aware of that. And I like to talk about our Flock program when I have an opportunity. We're very strict on our Flock program. We only keep photos in our Flock program for 30 days, no more than that. We don't keep them for a year, we don't keep them for 6 months, we keep them for 30 days, and that's it. And then they're automatically purged from the program. My lieutenant, my investigation lieutenants also have direction from me that we watch our program. We watch to see who's accessing our program. We only allow California agencies to access our program. Outside agencies, federal agencies are not allowed to access our cameras, only California law enforcement agencies. And then we watch those agencies. And if we see that those agencies are accessing our cameras and they're not putting in a case number and a reason why they're looking at our cameras, for example, case number 1234, investigating an assault with a deadly weapon. They have to put in a case number, and they have to put in a reason why they're accessing the cameras to look at them. And if we see an agency that, and I'm just going to use Mendocino County, I'm not picking on them, not saying that they've done this, but say Mendocino County, we look at it and all of a sudden there's 3 incidents where they've accessed our cameras and they've not put a case number or a reason as to why they're accessing the cameras, we turn them off and they don't have access to our Flock cameras anymore. Because that's what we want and that's what we expect, and that's the expectation of my deputies. If they're accessing the Flock program, they will put a case number, they will put an incident in there, and they will say why they're accessing the cameras, so that we can have that accountability and that transparency with our community that the system is not being abused. What I'm going to say next is I am not an attorney, so I am not giving you legal advice. I'm just telling you from my understanding of the constitutional rights in the Fourth Amendment. If you're going to put a camera on your house and you're going to put a camera in your business, you can absolutely do that. You can, as a business owner, you can put a camera anywhere inside of your business that is open to the general public. Okay? And you don't have to notify your patrons. I would suggest, out of just kindness and being a good community partner, that you have a sign that says, hey, if you enter this business, you enter video surveillance, but there's no requirement for that under the law currently. You can put it in there. You cannot put a camera in any place that a person would have a reasonable expectation of privacy. A changing room, a bathroom. If you have a stock room in the back of your business, you can put a camera in the stock room. to make sure that things aren't being stolen from there. But if you have a break room where it's specifically for your employees to go take a break, where they would have an expectation of privacy, you can't put a camera in there, okay? So that's where it kind of goes. As far as the exterior of your business, as long as the camera is pointed into a public space, it's 100% legal. You can film anybody in the public at any time without their permission. We do it all the time with our body-worn cameras and our car cameras and the flock cameras. It's legal under the Constitution. If you point your camera into somebody's front yard or their front window or their backyard, you're now in violation of the curtilage of their home, and that could be a Fourth Amendment violation that could open you up to civil litigation. So make sure that if you're going to put cameras on the exterior of your business, which makes sense because you want to see who's coming into your business and who's leaving your business in case something happens, you just have to make sure that that camera is angled to the point that it's not focused into anybody's personal space where, again, they would have an expectation of privacy. Okay? That pretty much covers the camera registry program, our flock program, and suggestions for the community. I think it's great. We have solved so many crimes with the flock system. I'm sure you guys have all heard about the home invasion homicide that happened in Lower Lake, right? Flock camera gave us a major lead on that led us to a potential suspect in that investigation. Had it not been for the flock camera, we wouldn't have even had a single lead other than knowing the victim and what caliber of firearm was used. That was it. That's all we had. The flock system is what gave us that lead that has now led us to a suspect. So, and I can just go on and on about the number of crimes that have been solved with the flock camera system, so.
Is the flock camera system something that we could get in our area?
No, I would not suggest it for your area because the flock camera system is not a surveillance system. It's more of a passive system, and how it works is essentially it's looking at the roadway, and then when it sees movement, it comes on, it takes a photograph of the side of the vehicle and the rear of the vehicle or the front of the vehicle, and then as soon as it has that, it uploads it, and then it basically shuts itself down. It's not an active system. You would potentially want more of a surveillance style system that records on what's called a loop. So it's constantly recording.
Yeah.
It just records over itself, and you can get that to record for 60 days, for 120 days, and once it reaches that data limit, it just starts recording over itself. That's more of an active system, and that's what I would recommend, is more of an active system.
What are the responsibilities for the community? Let's say the Kelseyville Business Association forks up the money to buy the cameras where does the responsibility bear? Is it the county because it's on county property, or is it the business association has to absorb the liability if somebody decides they want to sue because they feel their, privacy's been, intruded?
Violated?
Yeah, violated.
Well, again, I'm not an attorney,
Okay.
so take this with the grain of salt of just 28 years of law enforcement. If it is on county property, then I believe that would fall on the county. If it's on private property, then it would fall on the private property owner.
Okay.
But again, it's the same as if I turn my cell phone on and I walked up and down Main Street in Kelseyville with my cell phone recording everybody on Main Street, Kelseyville, there's no civil liability or anything illegal about that. People may not like it, but it's not illegal, and there's nothing in against the Constitution or the Civil Code that says you can't do that. I mean, people do it all the time. They pull out their cell phones and just record everything.
Yeah.
It's legal in a public space.
Okay. And I assume there's signage that would need to be up for that as well?
Yeah, that's just being, it's being a good community
Just like
partner. You'd want to put up signage that,
Be advised when you come into
surveillance.
Kelseyville,
Yeah.
you're being watched.
Mhm.
Yeah. Somebody's watching you.
How many cameras do you have with the flock system? I mean, points?
We have, the sheriff's office has, I believe, 29 cameras.
Okay.
The North Shore, Supervisor Crandall has, I believe, another 5 or 6, and correct me on that, I believe 5 or 6. And then Supervisor Rasmussen is looking at putting some out on Highland Springs. And then I'm also looking at increasing some of our flock cameras and adding some down in the Middletown area, because I don't have any on Highway 29 going over St. Helena, and we're looking at adding to that. But it's also a budgetary thing too, because as I said, currently just to maintain the system, we're spending about $71,000 a year just to maintain the 29 cameras that we currently have.
Do Lakeport and Clear Lake PD have some too?
I do not believe Lakeport has any flock cameras. They do? They have 11 now? Okay. And then I believe City of Clear Lake has 23.
What, are there any, say for instance, the businesses, KBA or business along Main Street and surrounding area would like to get cameras. Is there a program or a grant or any kind of something out there that they could all apply for?
That I do not know.
Oh, okay,
I'm not aware of anything like that.
okay.
So it sounds like for Kelseyville to implement something like this, we're going to probably need county approval to install cameras, and we'll have to look into how that.
Unless it's
gets
the
done.
businesses.
Yeah, the businesses, I mean, the
Can do
business
it.
gets to install any cameras they want as long as they're not violating anybody's personal space or curtilage or expectation of privacy. They can put as many cameras on their businesses as they want.
We did a campaign in my previous residence with the town where we encouraged businesses to buy and they did, and it worked, you know, because they were registered.
Yeah.
And if there were issues, they could go and talk to those businesses.
Yeah, if any of the business owners are here and you have cameras, please register them with the sheriff's office. It's all confidential. It stays in our system. Nobody has access to those systems. And even if I got a PRA, Public Records Act request for that information, I would not release that information. Could be releasing personal information. I would release that I have 105 people registered, but your personal information, I wouldn't have to release that. There's all kinds of codes in the PRA law that would.
Any online questions? No online. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. I found something news-wise, is that Santa Clara County is concerned with Flock because not so much as its police department, but Flock may be selling data that it gets from the community and turning it over to ICE. So Santa Clara County has suspended its renewal of the contract until it digs a little deeper. I know in our community, we have community members who are worried for our immigrant neighbors. Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I have heard that, but I am not aware that there is any factual evidence that that has occurred. From my understanding, that stemmed from an incident where some law enforcement officers in San Francisco were getting into the Oakland cameras and running people for federal immigration, and that has been dealt with, and there's been some disciplinary action that came out of that. We're constantly in contact with Flock and get their press releases and talk to their CEOs and their representatives, and I am not aware of anything where they've actually provided anything to the federal government. Not saying it didn't happen. I just don't have any concrete evidence that it has occurred. So at this point, I don't want to make because I've thought about this, because I've kind of heard the same things, I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and pull those cameras that have been so successful in Lake County of solving crimes unless I have the facts to say, yes, this is occurring. And believe me, if that is occurring and continuing, then yeah, we will probably look at pulling those, because I'm not going to be involved in that. That's not my responsibility. I don't want to be involved in that. But I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and have the cameras pulled unless I have, concrete evidence that this was occurring or is occurring.
Illegal dumping is a major problem, and as is littering on the Hoffman Grade, you can clean up the grade and make some money if you have successful beautification for litters. On the east side of Kelsey Creek. Oh. On the east side of Kelsey Creek by Canocti Packing, recently went out there with my dog, and the illegal dumping is just atrocious. There's just all kinds of stuff that's being dumped over the side. And I envision cameras, but then it's fraught with a lot of practical problems, and the lifespan of the camera probably wouldn't be that great. But there's an attraction there that I think would be nice, but practically speaking, not so much.
Yeah, we've lost 5 flock cameras since we've had them. People have broken them, people have shot them. I mean, it's just the price of doing
frustrating.
business. So But I will make note of that, and I'll have my deputies look into that. Because sometimes we do, you know, people are sometimes not very intelligent, and they dump stuff, and they dump their household trash, and we find all kinds of utility bills and everything that leads us right back to the person that did it. And so we've had a couple of successful investigations like that. So if you run across that again, please give us a call and let us know. We'll have a deputy go out there and look through it. And if it's something, like I said, that we can find something that's going to lead it to somebody, we certainly will.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff Bingham.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. All right, next item. Andy Dobush to talk about the Kelsey Creek Firewise community.
I'm learning to, oh great, I talk after the 6'8" guy. All right, so well, thank you for inviting me here. Not only is my name Andy Dobush, but I am also known as the spark plug of the Kelsey Creek Firewise community. So that's my official title. What that means is that I am the coordinator for our local neighborhood Firewise chapter. The boundaries of our, I guess maybe a show of, do y'all know anything about the Firewise initiative program? Just so just a little bit. It's a non-compliant or compulsory program that's a volunteer. That's a recognition program. That's a federally based program. Kelseyville was blessed with a fellow by the name of John Noel, who moved down from Southern California, was a fire captain, I believe, down there. Realized that we were woefully lacking in this arena, so has established on his with the assistance of CAL FIRE and others, has created, I believe we're maybe the 8th or 9th community in Kelseyville. The Rivieras, Buckingham, that's where the program is heavily concentrated. We're the first one kind of out of that area. I hear there are others that are hoping to join. What that means, what a Firewise community means, we are a group, as the spark plug, along with Mark Watson, we got to define our boundaries of our neighborhood. So our boundaries of our neighborhood is Kelsey Creek Drive, all the way down through the canyon, around until it connects Adobe Creek, and then all the way down Adobe Creek, and then we hit Bell Hill, and then Bell Hill all the way back to Highway 29, which then creates a big circle there. So all the properties within that area are now part of the Kelsey Creek Firewise neighborhood, and it's just based on the fact that you live there. My neighbor Sharon wouldn't have to ever attend part of any of our meetings. We would like her to, of course, and we encourage and are noted as well. But just because you're in our area, you are qualified for certain benefits. I guess the one that speaks loudest to people is the pocketbook. And I just did verify through my insurance company, State Farm homeowners insurance, that we get a 2% discount on our homeowner policy. So it's kind of cool. If you add it up times, mine came out to $120, whatever. You multiply that times the 350 people that are in our area. That's like $35,000, whatever, savings of the annual premiums. Pretty cool. Then you look at the RIV and all those places. So it's a great program, just monetarily, but of course the big picture is it's fire prevention. The program encourages you to take steps to fire harden your properties. They follow the guidance of CAL FIRE, and I believe that's kind of their model that they follow when they draft certain publications that they pass out that just talk about the different fire zones. And what they really encourage is the zone 0 hardening, which is right around your house, and then you work your way out. And so we would, and through community meetings and such, we share this information. We have guest speakers, presentations. John's fantastic with kind of encouraging us to act. I've already cleaned my gutters like 3 times, which it's amazing that they fill up that quickly. It's like, okay, but that's one of the primary things, and the size of your vent covers and keeping your porches clean and where you store your fuel and all these things that have a huge impact on the fire safety of your property. So it's encouraged that you take these actions. What's required, I believe, is 1 hour. It's kind of silly, actually. 1 hour, not per day, not per week, not per month. 1 hour per year of efforts to fire harden your home, so your house, per household. So my responsibility as the spark plug will be on an annual basis is to gather as much of that data as I can, who's done what around our community, who's just taking your recycling can down. Your green waste compost, that count, cleaning your gutters, leaf blowing, that type of thing. So, we're all living in the country. We all know we do far more than an hour a year. So it's a matter of capturing that data. I'll take pictures, submit it into a report, file that report with the federal agency that looks at them. I believe I do that report annually, and we were just approved a couple of weeks ago, I believe, with our 3-year plan. We did an assessment of the area, come up with some goals, and we'll work toward those goals. And the first of our main goal is this zone 0. And so, let's see, what else, other information? Again, we thought we had to sign up to receive these benefits. So I was greeted by some fine fellows in the green and olive, because I went around, I was trying to encourage participation from my neighbors, and what better way than to put flyers in their mailbox? No, not in the mailbox.
No.
Sharon called the cops on me and said, there's some weirdo walking down the street putting flyers.
Yeah.
So, no, but I did try that, and it didn't work. So I won't be doing that again, but I will be trying to publish our efforts and such on Facebook, on our little Kelsey Creek or Adobe Creek community groups and such, because we'd like to get the word out, and because people won't know. And my insurance company, State Farm, Nanette Dutcher, she said now that I contacted her, that she'll automatically, if she knows you're in that catchment area, you'll automatically receive the 2%. But I haven't taken it upon myself to call farmers and USAA, and so we need to let people know that are in our area to contact their insurance companies, so to ask for their 2%. So anyway, I think.
Andy, is there some sort of map or with overlays that show where,
Yeah.
especially within the Big Valley Advisory area, which ones are already members of Firewise
John,
members?
Yeah, absolutely. John, definitely, I can get you that information, Rick.
Because then we could look at that and see if there's some other areas we could concentrate on.
Absolutely. As I said, primarily, it's the RIV. Every community around the RIV has one. I believe we are the first outside of that corridor there. But John Noel has maps, and I have this jankety map, and we use the county GIS thing, and he draws up the perimeters around our boundaries and such. So I can get you the initiatives.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, Roberta McIntyre, Hidden Valley Lake.
Yes.
So isn't Magdalena the regional coordinator for Firewise in Lake County?
I believe John Noel.
Was it Sean Knoll? Okay, so
Yeah.
that would be the person to talk to first. because-
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
thanks.
yeah.
There is also the Mount side, the west side of the Mount side, moving down, is also
Yeah,
The, yeah, that's it.
The Clark
That's
Drive
it.
area, right? Yeah.
The Clark Drive,
Yeah.
yeah.
Jessica, is there a chance that maybe the county GIS could integrate the Firewise communities as a layer?
That would be nice.
So that's a good idea. I don't have an answer for that right now, but so we have the Lake County Fire Safe Council, which the website is firesafelake.org. The state is now paying for Fire Safe Council coordinators, and so what we're trying to do is have John, and who works with Magdalena, and Magdalena has been to this meeting before, really work together to be our county Firewise coordinator to, help new neighborhoods come together, find the spark plug, because it does take one. But it is a good idea that we have them all mapped around the county, because I think that we're almost at 20
Oh, is it?
countywide.
Oh, countywide, right. Okay.
We're almost at 20, aren't we, Roberta? We're like 19, 20,
Okay.
we're really close.
Okay.
But we are having a Firewise Summit next month in April, and each of the coordinators around the county will be at that meeting so that we can really disseminate a lot of the information down and up. And I'm going to bring that idea of a map up, because I think that's a great idea.
I can help with that if anybody wants to. Sure. Yeah, I'm also,
Okay, April,
so I also currently am with Fire Safe Sonoma, Sonoma County's countywide Fire Safe Council, and I basically built that Firewise program there. I've recently switched my efforts into working more in Lake County than Sonoma County, so I'm shifting my efforts here. So with that said, with regard to Firewise, if y'all want some help here with that, I'd be certainly willing to share my expertise and experience there. And I'll leave my card with the board to put it into the record, I guess. But I have cards if anybody wants to get a hold of me. I'd love to do it. I'd love to help it here. And Chief Duncan's aware of some of my work as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? One more question in the back.
So Andy, thank you
Yes.
so much for your work on this, and I'm going to ask dumb questions.
oh,
Because I've been
Thank
trying to
you very
get
much.
Firewise community set up for my area, but I keep on running into walls. So the minimum commitment that you need from neighbors is just that 1 hour a year?
correct. As, and I speak as a spark plug, not as a mechanic. So, yeah, I'm not an attorney.
I'll have to put it on my calendar. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Yep, you betcha.
All right, we got another big topic coming up, and that is with the community development. I see Maria Turner here and Shannon Walker Smith, and we're going to talk about the local area plan release.
Hello, Mireya Turner, Community Development Director. It's been a while since I've visited your Municipal Advisory Committee, so we're really excited to be here. We are on year 3 of a 3-year project to update the county's general plan and all 8 local area plans. So these documents, you'll see that really intimidating looking binder over where I was sitting. That is our general plan. It is the community's vision for the county for the next 20 years. And so the last couple years, we've been working on gathering as much public input any way we can. We've had surveys on paper, surveys online. We've visited municipal advisory committees. The board appointed or established local area plan advisory committees. So for every of these 8 local area plan areas, as well as a general plan advisory committee that works on input for the county-wide elements. This year we're doing it a little differently. Oh yeah, we have a slide presentation, huh? Okay, good. Well, until she gets that running. We're doing this update a little differently because our last general plan was done in 2008, so it needs update by state law by 2028. But all of our local area plans have been done at different times, and all of them needed updating. So it didn't seem reasonable for us to update the general plan without also simultaneously getting new area plans. And so this has been a very ambitious project. And we have really been thankful for all of the members of the public who have hung in there with us, given this ambitious goal and our timeline constrictions, because the board allowed us, they granted us a significant amount of ARPA funds, the federal funds, and we cobbled together a few other grant funds that have very firm deadlines. And so we've been working really hard, even when you don't see us in the community for a while. And we're now at the point where we have a draft version for public review of the countywide elements and the local area plan elements. And we're integrating them all into a single general plan. Instead of having the general plan and then the local area plans, because we'd heard concerns in planning over the years that folks thought that maybe we weren't valuing our local area plans or the community's vision for that specific community as heavily as the general plan. And so now, just to clarify that going forward in the future, it's all one document. And so it will more clearly and visibly show that it carries the same weight. We have a slideshow. Let's see. Also, I want you to look at that very intimidating book and just know that you don't need to be intimidated, because you're the first meeting that we have of the public review period, which is going from March through April. And that is just the review on these documents. We're going to have LAPAC meetings, the Local Area Plan Advisory Committee, as well as GPAC meetings. But don't worry if you don't want to read that entire thing and get, back to me by next Tuesday. It's okay, because you're going to have plenty of opportunities to make your input heard. After all of these GPAC, LAPAC, and MAC meetings, we'll then do a final review and come to then put out that public review draft for the board and the planning commission. So, and those are noticed to public hearings. So you'll see we post in the Record Bee, thanks Mr. Roller, and we also post on Lake County News. So just be watching there, or if you want to keep up to date on all of the activities for Lake County 2050 and make sure you don't miss an opportunity to have your voice heard, then simply go to the hub for all information for the general plan and local area plans, lakecounty2050.org. That's lakecounty2050.org. That has our calendar of events there, as well as all the documents and an online survey, so that you can, late at night when you're really bugged because you want your community visioning input to be heard, go online, take that survey, and give us your thoughts. Can I take this off, Thomas? I can't see my presentation, and I don't want to take the public input one. Oh,
Yeah.
this one. You sure? Okay, good. What is the general plan? Oh, I kind of covered that. The general plan is the community telling County of Lake or the government, this is what we want to see, both for our county-wide interests like agriculture or resource conservation, as well as this is what I want to see in Kelseyville. And these are our priorities. And so you'll see each element or each chapter has a section that talks about the details of that topic specifically, like Kelseyville, demographics, what do we have as far as resources, things like that. Or countywide and ag, it talks about that. And then it shows the priorities through goals and implementation actions. That is giving the government our marching orders for the next 20 years. So say the planning department is doing a use permit. We're showing that the project that's proposed is in compliance with the community's vision in the general plan. Or let's say some other department, like roads, is looking for grants to be able to improve roads. It shows the state and the federal governments that are issuing these grants that we are working lockstep with the community's vision. We are in compliance with what the community really wants to see, because they're less likely to give us a grant if they think we're just making this stuff up and just sort of applying willy-nilly. So this shows an orderly progression because we want to capture what is most important, which is the community's vision. Key changes. I already covered that. We're integrating the local area plans into the overall document. Oh, yeah. So you'll see on this map, we made a couple changes in nomenclature. Lucerne is proposed to move into, I think, North Lake communities because because it identifies with Nice, Lucerne, and the shore, what was previously shoreline communities. Upper Lake, Blue Lakes, and Nice are going to be in, no, I think Lucerne's going to North. All right, well, we'll talk about that offline. And anyway, so the community meetings were saying, where do we sort of self-identify? And it didn't make any sense to call an Upper Lake Nice local area plan, which is what we had before, if it's going to have Lucerne, or if it's going to have Blue Lakes. So we chose a few different names, mostly just East Lake and Lower Lake. And the meetings that we had in years 1 and 2 also gave communities the chance to sort of shimmy these little boundaries around a little bit by what they considered or sort of identified as being relevant to that community. And so the lines have all shifted just a little bit. But we stayed with 8. All right, next one. Overall process. Who cares? Okay, engagement. Probably be better if I could read it, huh? All right. And if anybody over there can't see the slide, feel free to scooch on over. So this is a capturing of what we have done so far. We had the survey, community priorities and issues. We had LAPAC and GPAC members actually taking these surveys out through their communities, and we also had a booth at the fair, so we got a lot of feedback. And it was great because we saw that around the lake, a number of priorities sort of resonated through everybody. Like, we really love the rural nature of our county. We like our small business communities. We want our kids to be safe. We want the water quality to be protected of the lake, and so that was really helpful to be able to focus on key issues. Then we also had stakeholder focus groups. Environmental justice is a brand new element or chapter in the general plan by state law. And environmental justice focuses on the groups that are typically disenfranchised or have more obstacles to overcome. So our tribal nations, our Spanish-speaking, our elderly, people like that. And we want to make sure that we're integrating them consciously into these visioning processes, because this impacts their lives, and we want to make sure, like, you don't want to end up having your industrial plant right next to your elementary school. You don't want to have conflicts or discordance or harm done to some of our more sensitive receptors or groups of people because of lack of planning. And so the state requires us to focus specifically on these groups in an environmental justice element in a manner of being more conscious of all of the people in our community. Spanish speaking, again, yeah, we did a Spanish speaking meeting. That was awesome. And then an agricultural focus group meeting. Yeah, we've tried to make sure that we're focusing on priorities in our county, and agriculture is, of course, is one of the top ones. Next. GPAC meetings, look at all those. We had a bunch. LAPAC meetings, it's only 2 bullet points, but let me tell you, we had over 41 LAPAC meetings. Keep going. So our general plan is a little shifted up in this version also, because since we were updating all of our local area plan elements, there are some items that would have normally been in the countywide general plan that we thought were more appropriate because they could be community specific and be more valuable, such as land use. We had LAPACs talk about what we wanted to see in our communities as far as land use. In Kelseyville in particular, it was a high priority to get kids to school safely. And so we moved, the recommendation from the LAPAC was to move some of the medium and high density residential land use over right across the street from the schools. So we'll have fewer kids walking down, the street sides, and it'll be safer. So that was one of the community-specific priorities that got to be voiced during those meetings and reflected in our land use. Environmental justice, public facilities and services, economic development, special study areas and design guidelines. This, we did not focus on updating the design guidelines at this time, but we did add an implementation plan to do that, working with community groups in the future. And so I think Kelseyville has that included as well. So these are the chapters within that scary looking binder over there. They're not actually even all included in the scary looking binder because some of the appendices are pretty big. But you'll see how the local area plans have now been added starting at chapter or element number 8. And so the county-wide elements, the general plan overview, which talks a lot about Lake County and the point of a general plan. Housing element, which we have on a parallel process. It's not included in the Lake County 2050. Water resources element, that talks a lot about our lake and our watersheds. Agricultural resources element, this covers our strong encouraging of trying to develop, what's the term? Where you've got your plants, we're growing our walnuts, and then we ship them off, but we want to sort of stretch out the amount of ag support industries that we have in Lake County so that we can keep our resources and develop more of them and benefit from more of that production line. We also are, one of the recommendations is to diversify uses on agricultural land. So the state recently changed their laws to enable a winery to also have a brewery on site. We don't have that yet. But there was strong support in our surveys that people wanted to see more diversification for our agricultural businesses and give them more opportunities to diversify their business so that, we'll be more sustainable. Let's see what else. Health and safety, we did a climate vulnerability analysis. So we looked at a number of ways that Lake County is impacted by the climate, and that has gone to inform our health and safety element, as well as a county-wide evacuation plan that was done too. That also informs health and safety as well as our circulation portions of the elements. And both of those, the climate vulnerability analysis and the countywide evacuation plan, were regional. And so the cities can probably use those to benefit them when it comes to updating their long-range planning documents as well. All right, good. Land use map. So we talked about this a little bit. In year 1 and 2, our LAPACs got together and said, well, we kind of want more commercial, or like in Kelseyville specific, we sort of like a little bit more industrial opportunities, and so we added some of those in. We want to move some or add some medium to high density residential near the schools. We added that in. I think there was another one where we changed a couple parcels specifically due to parcel owner request. And then we gave all of that to the board. When was it? I don't know, last December? So that the board could take a look at it in concept to see if they thought it was okay. And so far, everything is hanging in there. Oh, the framework, go back to that just a second. There are 2 maps that tell us about how to use your land. One is the general plan land use designation map, which is what we've been working on now. After the board certifies or approves the general plan, we're going to do a comprehensive zoning map update, because by law, we have to have them in sync. We can't have an industrial general plan land use and like an R1 zoning district. Because people, when they're looking to see what they can do with their property, they're going to go to the zoning code to see, oh, my property zoned R1, so it's single family residential, and it lists everything you can do with that. And so we have to make sure that the zoning map reflects the community's vision, which is the general plan land use designation map. Okay. Countywide, I kind of talked about these. Yeah. I don't like slides that have a whole bunch of writing on them anyway. But environmental review. So this is a very big project, updating your general plan. The state finds it extremely important, definitely qualifies in their definition as a project, and so they require a full environmental impact report. So year 2, not only were we working on these drafts, but that launched the environmental review period, which is out for public review also. Yeah, that followed a little behind these other documents just because they had some last minute edits they had to do. But it is also available on that lakecounty2050.org website. Feel free to review it. It's really interesting. Next steps, where we go from here. Now through the end of April, we are reviewing we're asking the public to review the draft general plan. There is a survey on there to give us your input. What do you think we got right? What do you think we missed? Do we need to emphasize something more? Do we need to update something? Is something irrelevant or outdated? We want to know what you think we've got wrong and what you think we've got right, because it's really important that we nail this. Also, you can review and comment on the draft EIR. And really, that was really interesting. I've never been so entertained by an EIR before. But it's big, but you don't have to read the whole thing in one sitting. May through June, we're going to review the input and develop recommendations. Now, these are recommendations that are going to come from a bunch of meetings that we're just starting today. Again, the Municipal Advisory Committee meetings, the GPAC meetings, and the LAPAC meetings. In the fall, look for announcements for Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. Those are noticed public hearings. We still want your input. If you feel like you haven't been heard all up until that point, you still got those meetings to talk straight to the decision makers, the Planning Commission and the board. Okay, anything else? Questions and discussion? Also, I want to just say that we have Deputy CAO in Housing here, Lisa Judd, with us, because this opportunity of updating the general plan has also been a unique opportunity to piggyback other projects on it. Like earlier, last year, we had the Housing Action and Implementation Plan, and it's such a good opportunity to get public together to find out what you think, that we're just adding everything we can to piggyback and just benefit from access to public. And so tonight, Lisa's going to tell you a little bit more about a pro-housing designation, which is something that the state started as a carrot, but we're pretty sure it's going to turn into a stick. And we have an opportunity to qualify for it, which will benefit us in a number of ways that I don't want to steal Lisa's thunder, so I'll let her tell you the rest of that. But does anybody have any questions about the general plan? Because I love talking about it. Margot, here.
Thank you, Maria. Is there going to be a Spanish version of the general plan and the local area plans?
I did want to add just two things to what Mireya said, and one was about a Spanish speakers stakeholder meeting, a follow-up meeting to the first meeting that we are currently have in planning. It likely will be the last week of this month, and we'll get out information on that right away. The other thing that we are doing out of this general plan process, we worked with the RCD to apply for a grant called SALC, which is Sustainable Agricultural Land Conservation Grant. And that has been a direct way to have access to some of the core players in the ag community. And we're also doing a meeting with them tomorrow to talk about the ag element specifically.
So I don't think we have the entire general plan translated into Spanish, but we will have certain parts of it to go over it more thematically. Yeah, we want to make sure that we capture input no matter what language.
Thank you. Maria, I don't know when, and I'm asking when we should address this, but we're looking at downtown pedestrian safety and possibly bump outs and a whole almost renovation of downtown Main Street the way it is now. Is that something we would address with the
Take a look at the
area
Kelseyville
plan?
area plan. If it's not in there, it could go into circulation. But definitely join us at one of our LAPAC meetings or at some hearing, or send that in. Just go in and put that in on the survey. Send in your comments via the website so that we don't lose track of it, and we'll figure out where it goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have there been considerations, have there been considerations for tribal land use concerns?
Thank you. Tribal, the discussions that we have had with the different tribes have been really rewarding, and they've taken quite a bit of time. And before we released this document out for public review, we had a specific time set aside just for tribal review. Now, they are their own sovereign nation, like a little Liechtenstein, or, in Lake County. And so we don't have jurisdiction over use of their land. But we are intertwined due to the fact that they've lived here for 11,000 years, and their tribal cultural resources and their knowledge, tribal ecological knowledge and things like that, are of high value to everybody in the county. One of the things that I was excited to see that really resonated around the lake was a strong interest in more education, like interpretive signs. So like when you're driving along Highway 20, there could be a little spot where you stop, and 10,000 years ago, this is what was here. You know, that sort of thing, so that we sort of understand the cultures better. And so you'll see much more discussion and mentioning of the tribes, tribal cultural resources, tribal cultural history, things like that, in this version of the general plan than before. Not because they have jurisdiction or a say over the county, but because we're intertwined culturally and as a community. And so I'm really excited about that part. So that was a long-winded no.
Oh, Mireya, how many surveys have gone out in the last 2 or 3 months? Because I think I took it, and then has another one gone out? And
So apparently time is moving as fast for you as it is for me,
Uh-huh.
because this survey just rolled out like last week.
okay, so I
Yeah.
still have to do that survey.
Yeah, the
Okay.
last survey was like last year sometime, but it
Oh,
feels like
I
yesterday.
did something.
I know.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
all right.
Oh, true.
Right.
That's true, yeah. We've integrated as many as seemed smooth into our project as we could, but you still have like the APC doing the highway thing and some other group doing this other thing, and yeah. So I really appreciate that you're here today for our thing. Thanks.
Well, we appreciate the report, Maria. Thank you very much.
My
It's a lot of work going on there. Okay, thank you, Shannon and Maria. And now Lisa.
Wait, is Lisa, yeah.
So we do have these handy dandy little cards with the QR code to the Lake County 2050 site. We have plenty for people to take and give to neighbors or concerned, residents in the community. There's just a tiny bit of a caveat. Thanks to Margot, we discovered that the QR code is currently giving us an error. We have our consultant, they have a ticket in with the QR code company, and we should have it resolved shortly. So go ahead and take some of these tonight if you'd like to hand them out to people that who you know are interested. This just gets them directly to the site easily. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have Lisa Judd's going to be talking about housing.
Lisa Judd, Deputy County Administrative Officer for Housing. Thank you so much for allowing me a few moments. I appreciate at the last moment. At the County of Lake, through the California Housing and Community Development, there's an initiative for the pro-housing designation. And that pro-housing designation, it basically is for facilitating housing development, looking at processes in that realm so that we can increase our housing, looking at efficiencies in housing, streamlining those processes, and as well as mitigating any barriers that we can mitigate. The pro-housing designation, as Maria mentioned, is something right now that is there's benefits to pro-housing. It will allow us to have more prioritization on funding, and in our current atmosphere right now, their funding is scarce, and in order to have housing, we need that funding. So it's imperative that we look at every opportunity that we can. Pro-housing designation is something that will allow us not only prioritization, but we can apply for pilot incentive program funding, and we are on target to get that application in by the end of the month. And as part of this process, we're doing a public participation. And we just talked about QR codes and surveys, and I know you folks are so overdone with surveys, but I promise the survey is short. And we really, and I think there's maybe 5 questions on that survey, so it's really short. But we would really like your input. Right here, we have a QR code, and you can scan it.
Okay.
But going back to pro-housing and, what does that mean? I think there's, some misconceptions about pro-housing, and one of the things I want to say is that there are 4 different categories. There's an application, We have to have points in each category. And the wonderful thing about this is we don't have to check everything in there. We get to do what is important to our communities and what makes sense in this. And as part of that process, when we're going through, obviously we go through what we already have and looking at those different categories and as well as what we plan on having. And those things are directly taken from the housing element as well as the housing action and implementation plan. And these are all things that you've already given us input. So I feel confident that when you're looking at the pro-housing application, these are things that the community's already conveyed that they support. Those kinds of categories are favorable zoning, land use, acceleration of housing production timeframes, reduction of construction and development costs, and providing financial subsidies. And then there's also enhancement factors. It is something that is fluid, so going forward after we obtain our pro-housing designation, we can continue to do things to increase our points, which makes us competitive for those grants in the future. And again, there was a talk about it being kind of an incentive right now. However, we've already seen with the continuum of care here in Lake County that in order for them to qualify for the round 6 HHAP funds, acronyms everywhere, that the pro-housing designation has to be in place. So they're already kind of saying that this has to happen. So again, I appreciate you letting me kind of tag along and give this information out, but I really encourage you, there is also a one-page fact sheet on kind of what pro-housing is, a very high level. And I want to encourage you that there was a full presentation given to the Board of Supervisors on March 3rd. You can find it on YouTube. You do a quick search for that, and you'll find it. And there's an entire slideshow presentation, and so you can get kind of more information on that if you're interested. But again, appreciate it if you can do that survey. I really appreciate your input. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
No, there's no survey here.
Oh, Lisa.
Yes.
Have you spoken to the Lake County Chamber of Commerce, Nicole Flora, about this? We had a board meeting yesterday, and this is exactly what we were talking about. And they're getting realtors involved, and they're talking about how, you know, the cost of materials versus the drop in housing prices, and that's creating an issue where people are bringing people from out of county for materials and builders. Anyway, if you wanted to, this is a perfect time for you to maybe reach out to her because there's conversations going on.
I think that's an excellent idea. I know she's valuable input, and I have her contact, and you know, so I will definitely reach out to her, and so that way we're not in our separate worlds and kind of collaborate.
Well, you should come to our government relations. You'd be right in the wheelhouse of some of the things they're talking about.
Okay,
So,
appreciate
yeah.
that. Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, that concludes the items on our agenda for tonight. Thank you all for coming and participating, and we look forward to seeing you in a month.
May I give a high five?
Yeah, you.
I would like to give a high five to Trina Pauley and her crew who have been working, well, since I've lived here, on beautification of Kelseyville. And I just think that is a model that all communities in Lake County and in the world should listen to or watch and observe and model, because she's really done a great job. If you guys went to the beautification grand opening with the lights and stuff, that's the newest thing, and then the planter boxes and all of that, really is fantastic. The fact that they have a committee dedicated to doing those things, and it just creates great drive-up appeal, creates great small-town charm, and we should all be doing it. We should. And
Yeah. And like Helen said, if you're bored and need.
yeah.
Yeah.
A group project, but it's been a year and a half in the making, and it's finally done, or at least phase 1 is done.
Yeah.
Take a look, it is. Thank you.
And if you're looking for something to do on Sunday, we'll be out picking garbage on Highway 29, so.
Or you could come and help prune my orchard.
Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah. I'm gonna pick weeds too.
Or pick weeds, yeah.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Good meeting. Good meeting.
Yeah, it was.